Welcome to the Student Voice. I am Chandler Gibson. Films and the people who love them, many of the students have stars in their eyes and a beating heart of the Hollywood dream. But what goes on in the minds of our very own film fanatics? Joining us in the studio today to talk about it are Caitlin Hoheimer, Chet Smith, Brian Davis, and Blippi Little. Thank you for joining us, guys.
Happy to be here.
Great. What got you to like films?
I just watched a lot of films when I was a child. I really enjoyed the experience of not living. Like, whenever you go see films, you don't think about real life. You or go out, you're in like a different world, and it was just always brought me so much happiness and peace to watch it. And then soon I got really interested in the behind the scenes aspect of it all, more than, just watching films. So that's why I joined this program, to learn more about what goes behind the scenes and how to make a film and how to make a great film, because there's so many great films out now.
For me, it was more later on in my life. Like, I didn't really grow up watching a lot of movies, especially not classics. So that's kind of where I am right now. I'm exploring the classic movies, and I'm really getting a feel for what stands the test of time. So, it's kind of why I want to get into making movies, to, contribute to that.
I got into movies kind of in a weird kind of roundabout way. My birthday's like 5 days before Halloween, so like ghosts and monsters are always fascinating. And since those things don't exist, movies is where I turn to, with like Godzilla and King Kong and Ghostbusters. And for me, it was about seeing these like fantastical creatures and landscapes and ideas, for as a young child, as a reality. And so that's what really got me into it.
I kind of just, I didn't really get into like thinking about movies until I accidentally got put in a media class. And then you start getting the feel of how to edit, how to shoot, how to do all this. So you start looking at movies in a totally different aspect, and sort of makes you think about the more, like she was saying, the behind the scenes. And when you start thinking about the behind the scenes, you start seeing what the film is for what it is. And I don't think you can really see a film, and that's when I started getting into it, and also when I really started to watch like horror films, because I think I enjoy a good Jason and a good Freddy, and it's really where I got into films.
What are some of your favorite films?
I have so many favorite films. I love independent films. I love horror films. I love foreign films. So if there's an independent horror foreign film, like, that's my heaven right there. But I love Whiplash. Like, that's my favorite movie of 2014 at the moment. I really love... I'm going blank.
The Gift, right?
Yeah, I really love like The Gift and Nightcrawler. I love Enemy. I loved Prisoners. I like really dark, dramatic movies that are based more on real life situations that can actually happen. I'm not really for like romance or anything cheesy like mindless action, because I don't think that's what movies should be as an art. I mean, it is an art form, and it's fun sometimes to go see a mindless movie, but when you see independent films and a really well done horror film, like, it really makes you respect the art of it and really enjoy like how much effort they put in underneath it to respect the audience that much to make such a great, realistic, hardcore movie.
I think, to kind of piggyback on what you're saying a little bit, I think these like dark, kind of brooding movies, a lot of classics are shot in that way and written that way, like The Shining, like movies like that, where they really pay attention to the human element in the movie. So I think like movies like The Shining and Texas Chainsaw Massacre, a lot of older horror flicks like that are definitely, my favorites.
So I'm on the opposite end of the spectrum. I believe that movies and films should really transport you to something else, to somewhere else. I think the greatest movie of all time is Ghostbusters, and it's people are like that's insane. It's like, but if you think about it, people often think of Ghostbusters as a comedy, but it's really a sci-fi movie. Everything about Ghostbusters is made up, except for the city of New York. Everything, all the science, all the logic, a lot of the terms they use, it's all completely made up, and you buy into it. And you believe the world that they've created. And to me, that is what's the greatest thing about it. You know, a serious dramatic flick or something that's based on reality, they don't have to build the world. It's just there already. With something like Ghostbusters or Mad Max recently, which has become an obsession of mine, they create a whole world for you. You know, they create the backstory, they're taking you somewhere else. And for me, you know, my top movies, you know, would be Ghostbusters, Amélie, which is a French romantic comedy, and it's kind of based on reality, but it's a bit fantastical. Mad Max, Scott Pilgrim versus the World, you know, Metropolis, you know, is often up there. And again, those take certain elements of things that you're aware of and appreciate, but then build off of it into this wild, wonderful world that is not something that you could see every day. And to me, those are the best movies.
I sort of take effect from both sides. I like myself a good dark, like, I think one of my top movies has to be a movie by Guillermo del Toro. It's a Spanish foreign film, and it's called Pan's Labyrinth.
It's fantastic.
And the amazing movie. I haven't finished the whole thing, which I want to get to. And another one of my favorite movies has to be Star Wars, and on the same Lord of the Rings, because I like that because that sort of, it takes you into this world that was thought of by somebody else. They had to come up with language, they had to come up with characters, they had to come up with all of this different stuff, and it was nothing. They both made two different worlds, and I enjoy that because I like to be transported into other sort of somebody else's thought process. So I like to take effect from a lot of different movies.
Do you think films are better with CGI effects or not?
I think this is actually kind of a funny question. You know, films are sometimes going to need CGI because they're not real animals, like creatures that they're going to recreate. There's not real places like they have to recreate. But if it's done really well and nicely and not so dramatically that it's like sci-fi crap, I think that some movies do need CGI. But like movies like Whiplash and like Boyhood, they're like more realistic. There's no need for CGI. But like Star Wars, they need CGI. Like the creatures, the spaceships and all that, but they do it well. They don't do it where you're like, oh, that's so noticeable, there's a green screen behind it, blah. But like, because it's more respectable. But there are some movies that overdo it completely and you can't fully enjoy the movie. So my answer, I guess, has to be that some movies do need CGI and others do not. But CGI is going to be used in some situations.
Definitely. And I think it just kind of, in the context of the movie, it depends on how necessary it is and how noticeable too. You know, if you get a movie like look at Terminator. Like in Terminator 2, you got the dude made of metal. He can like melt through things, and the effect itself doesn't really age that well. But in the context of the movie, you kind of forgive it because it's captivating. And like Ghostbusters too, not to like rag on their effects because you know for the time they're amazing. But like in a modern movie, they wouldn't really fit as well.
Yeah.
But it's about the story and like what those effects tell. So
I've done a lot of research on CGI and whatnot, and it's kind of it's a very complicated issue because there are movies. You mentioned Nightcrawler earlier. Did you know there's actually a significant amount of CGI in that movie? Most people don't, because CGI is used to accentuate the scenes as opposed to make it the focus. They've redid some of the lighting. They've put in street lights, make the right colors and whatnot. Things that just didn't line up during shooting. They've gone back in and they've tweaked it a little bit. Mad Max was recently praised for the amazing physicality of the stunts, that they were wrecking real cars and real explosions and real stunts. But the thing is that there's the big scene, which everyone has seen in the trailer, where Mad Max is on the pole that's swinging, and things all behind him are exploding and flipping and whatnot. Even that scene, which is a real truck, really exploding, really flipping, and there are really other trucks there, they all weren't done at the same time. They were composited. And that is technically CGI, taking all these pieces and putting them together. On the opposite end of the spectrum, you do have movies like the remake of The Thing, which they hired a group to do practical effects for the creature things, like the original Thing did. Real practical effects that give it a certain visceral, feeling to it. They then scrapped it and did really cheesy CGI. And that really hurt the movie. And there are other movies where they do that, where there are certain practical effects that you can do, and they work well. CGI will always be needed to either fix something that you didn't catch. It fixes a lot of continuity errors nowadays, a lot of time settings. Like, well, we need the lighting during the day, but the night scene, film it during the day, fix it in post, kind of deal. So it's that weird balancing act where I believe that if you use CGI to accentuate the scenes and it doesn't become the main focus, it's going to work out well for you. When your entire budget spent to make people, hey, look at the stuff that will be outdated in 2 years, you're going to fall behind. I saw San Andreas yesterday, and it already looks bad. The CGI already looks bad. And it came out this year. You just can't do that.
I think on CGI, I think it's good, and in certain movies it's needed, but I think some movies it might be needed more than others, like Star Wars. Let's take Star Wars for example. All those from the very beginning, most of those effects were practical. All the explosions, they were done with weird puppet stop motion things, and
They did models for the ships.
it was pretty amazing. And then in the new one, you're sitting there looking at that, and you're like, man, this stuff is where did George Lucas? This is not the same person who made the original trilogy. And then let's go and talk about Lord of the Rings. Now, Lord of the Rings, all of Lord of the Rings, most of Lord of the Rings, that's filmed in New Zealand. The place that they're going, real place. All that stuff that you see, all the grass, the trees and stuff, that's all real. And I think it's one thing they got lucky with that. We still have one place on Earth that has been touched very little in this place, in this more of a heavily human populated. They got really lucky with New Zealand. And then let's go and talk about Avatar, which I enjoy Avatar. I don't know how many.
Love Avatar.
They did very well. That was well done CGI. You can barely notice it. It's when CGI, even if it's done primarily, if you can barely notice it and it looks like a real place you can go and touch and feel, you felt when you were watching Avatar, you felt like, oh, I want to go to this place. This place is all lighted up and stuff. I want to go here.
I watched it a couple of months ago again with my son, and he loved it, and I loved it. And again, it ties in, a lot of it was CGI, but there are also some of the plants, they actually brought in plants. Some of the things and they created, I think it was like 85% CGI, but that 15% was real that actually balanced it all out. I mean, so little of the movie's real, but the stuff that is real is the stuff that you needed the people to interact with. And again, it was accentuating, more so I think most movies have been in a long time.
That's awesome. So did a particular film influence your choice to attend media studies?
One particular film? I think many films influenced me to come do media technology as a major. For example, I love the American Horror Story, and I know that's not a film exactly, but I am more of a cinematographer. I see things more with camera angles and things like that. And they have some amazing, incredible camera angles that I really want to recreate, but I can't afford to do that right now. There's so many different movies that have changed my life, like Nightcrawler, of course, Whiplash. Enemy was one of them with the color grading, because I love more golden, orange tone movies. I don't know why, but I just love gold colors in films. It just relaxes me kind of and just makes me feel good. So I would really love to recreate a film kind of with that same color tone like Whiplash or Enemy has, with that amazing color tone. And there is always a reasoning behind why they do this color tone. For example, in Whiplash, this is my opinion, is whenever it was more golden was when he was playing drums and he was happy. And then it would turn a little bit more greenish when he was away from drums or when he was not allowed to play drums. So I have a feeling the director did that on purpose because gold represents passion and beauty. So that's just my opinion, and that's one of the big reasons I wanted to join the media technologies, just to be able to learn how to properly make a film well done and go out and do it one day.
I think for me, it's like every good movie kind of perpetuates my passion for making movies. And of course, along the way, there are significant titles that, for one reason or another, really inspire me. And I think like some notable ones are Star Wars And even The Hobbit, like I don't know how you all feel about The Hobbit, but
I enjoy that one.
I think seeing behind the scenes, because they had covered a lot of behind the scenes things, and actually seeing the process that they go through to make the movie is like, it makes you feel like, wow, I really want to be there, I really want to work on this, and being able to see that is, really beneficial.
So, I remember seeing Ghostbusters 2 in theaters when I was a kid, and that was the first time I was really like amazed by the spectacle of film. And then a couple of years later, I saw the behind the scenes for Terminator 2, and it was for the ravine scene where Arnold Schwarzenegger drives the motorcycle off the ravine, and they crash the truck, and there's explosions. And I saw all the wire work and the pyrotechnics and the stunt people, and at that moment, at a fairly young age, I sat there, I was like, that's what I want my day in the office to be. I want to come home to my wife and kids, and they go, how was your day? I'm like, great. I crashed a truck into a ravine, blew it up, and then made a metal guy show up. Like that was like, I was like, that's how I want to live every day. And that was really the first moment where I put together the behind the scenes stuff with what I was seeing that I'd previously seen in Ghostbusters too. And then it just grew from there and just kept on inspiring me. Like, as you said, every good movie, really makes you want to do it again.
I think one of my biggest ones is, like I said, Pan's Labyrinth was one, because I think that was a well-made movie. Now, also another one, Crimson Peak, which was a really recent one. And then there's also another movie that really got me to thinking on what I want to do. Earth to Echo. I don't know if anybody has seen that. If you have time, go on Netflix, watch it. It's a really quirky movie. It's more for children, but it's about an alien, and it's about this alien robot and these three friends. And they're going through and they're walking around and they find this robot. Now, the whole movie is them trying to help this robot find some pieces so he can go back up space. But it's the way it was done. It's all done through these kids' eyes, or this one kid's eyes, going back on this one memory. And whenever they fast forward it, and it's all done through like YouTube videos. So whenever they fast forward it, it'll fast forward through some YouTube videos, and then he'll go and he'll click the expand button, and it'll expand. And you're like, and I just thought that was amazing. I thought that was probably my favorite part about the movie. There's also a couple other ones like Lord of the Rings and Star Wars, because I want to send people to a totally different world. I just want to take them somewhere else.
That's great. Well, that's it. Well, that is all the time we have today. Thank you, Caitlin, Jed, Bindley, and Bryant. It has been a real pleasure. Please check out Student Voice on YouTube at CSM3DIA. This has been Student Voice. We will be back in the spring semester. So on behalf of the crew of Student Voice, happy holidays, Chattanooga.